Right, so we want to time value of money last week. Right, we did compounding, then we moved on to discounting. And I believe we concluded the practice questions on discounting, or did we get there? We covered it, right? I believe we covered discounting, and we did the questions also, right? Hello. We didn't do the questions. Did we do discounting? Yeah, compounding, we did the questions, and then. All right, so let's do present value then. By the way, I have a small announcement. You all are supposed to apply for the exam on or before the 15th. Just be in touch with the institute. They will guide you through. They will let you know when the deadline is. I think it's on the 15th. Don't wait until the 15th. Apply before it. Right, so it's just next week, August 15th. Right, so let's move on to present values. Again, there is no rocket science. Last week, we discussed that the future value is equal to present value into 1 plus r into the power n. Right, so if I write it the other way around, present value into 1 plus r to the power n is equal to the future value. Right, so if we were to calculate present value, it will be equal to future value divided by 1 plus r to the power n. Now, this also you need to memorize. In many ways, the present value is just the opposite of the future value. Instead of compounding a value forward, you discount it back. If you know the present value, you can compound it to find the future value. Right? So if you know one of these, you can compute the other. Well, if you know the future value, you can discount to find the present value. So let's try this question. Let's try the question in the tute. Under 1576 is due in 3 years. If a bank pays a guaranteed 5% interest rate each year, how much would you need to deposit now to have 115.76 in 3 years? Right, so let's try this. You need 115.76 in 3 years, right? So this is the future value. And the time period is 3. Guaranteed interest rate of 5%. So R is 5%. Question is, what is future value? Sorry, what is the present value? It will be 115.76 divided by 1 plus 5% cube. You get a present value of 100. Any questions on this? So let's move on. If we look at this graph, right, which plots the present value against various discount rates, right? So as you keep increasing the discount rate, the present value keeps dropping, right? So higher the discount rate, lower the present value. If you look at the equation, it's pretty obvious because there is a negative relationship between discount rate and present value, whereas discount rate and future value had positive relationship. So don't get it confused. Actually, you only have to remember one. Remember future value, then you understand everything else. Everything else falls into place. When you study, don't memorize future value is this, so the impact on interest rate is this. Just remember one. Okay, that saves time and it saves a lot of hassle. You won't get confused either. Right. So as you keep increasing the discount rate and as time period keeps increasing, the present value keeps dropping. Right. You get lower present values. Yeah. When the interest rate is 0. Okay, let's work it out and see. If R is 0, yeah, present value equals future value divided by 1 plus 0 to the power n. That is future value divided by 1 plus 0 is 1 into the power n, which is 1. Okay, 1 to the power n is 1. So present value is equal to future value, which R is 0. And if T is 0, so if n is 0, power 0 is 1. So it's future value divided by 1, which is again present value equals future value. That's when either R or T are 0, future value equals present value. Any questions so far? Let's try the examples. While you're working on the examples, there is something else that I need to tell you. we have to cover your syllabus by about the second week of October, right? Which means we have about 2 months to go, perhaps 1 week less, just to be on the safe side. And so there is quite a lot to cover. Right? Let me be frank about it. Quite a lot to cover, and I don't want to rush things also. So we have two options. We can either have extra classes during weekdays, right? A few extra classes here and there. Or we can extend by about half an hour, maybe to 1 hour, right? Half an hour to 1 hour every day. So instead of stopping at 5:30, we can go on until about 6:30. Right, so extending this class is my preferred option. Are you all comfortable with that? Right, because during weekdays, I might get tied up at office, and we may have to cancel classes all of a sudden. So I prefer to extend classes, if possible, by half an hour, maybe by 1 hour. Right. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Right, so we'll go on that basis. Thank you so much. Let's work these examples. Yeah, so what we can do is we can try and cover the syllabus as fast as possible, and then we'll move on to questions, and we'll keep hammering at questions, so that you will be exam focused by the time we finish, and you'll be able to sit for the exam even the very next day, right, after we conclude. Right. Also, let me remind you that it's now high time you started studying. There is no more hanky-panky. Also, you would have received your results of the last exam. Right? Yeah, in fact, the results came some time back. So you should be exam focused by now. Start studying. Right? Start studying from scratch. If you can just try a few papers here and there. And if you have doubts, we can discuss. That is the more effective way of studying. Right? Okay. Question number 1. Suppose a US government bond promises to pay 2,249 cents 73 3 years from now, if the going interest rate on a 3-year government bond is 4%. How much is the bond worth today? Very simple calculation. And this is the kind of mathematics you would have done in grade 2, right? So that's why I keep saying that after the grade 5 scholarship exam, banking is going to be the easiest exam you are going to do. And out of the banking, all the banking subjects, financial management will be the easiest. Right? You can do this even in your sleep. You can do this, right? In your dreams, you can work out these examples. Just calculate. You can visualize that percent value is the future value divided by 1/r. Okay, that's it. Simple. Okay, so let's get cracking on these examples. It's always good to draw whatever is there in the question and have a visual picture. Then you will be able to visualize things better. Okay. So the future value is what you get in 3 years, 2,249, 2,249 cents 73. And time period is 3. Interest rate 4%. You asked to calculate percent value. Very simple. Percent value is future value. So 1 plus r power n. It's always good to write the equation. Thousand is correct. How would your answer change if the bond matures in 5 years rather than 3 years? Right? So what happens if n equals 5? Then the present value would be future value over 1 plus r power n. Always write the equation. On something I have noticed, right? When going through answer scripts at the exam, some students don't write the equation. This is the basic thing. If you write the equation, two things. Like you will get at least part of the marks. Examiner will give you marks for remembering the equation. Like marks are allocated for writing the equation. The other thing is, when you write the equation, very difficult to get it wrong because you only have to substitute the figures into this. If you have it in your mind, it might be difficult for you to put figures here. You might make mistakes. And so always write the equation. Good practice. It might be basic, but stick to the basics. 2,240. That's where most of the students, that could be the difference between a pass and a fail. Right? It's very important that you display your knowledge. Now, if you write this, if you don't write the equation and you do the workings in your head, you write the answer direct, you will lose marks. Not a single mark. If you write the equation, you will at least get 1 mark. The difference between a pass and a fail. Right? Now, sadly, this is where students go wrong. They know the concept, but they don't stick to the basics. Very easy. It's not very difficult. No, it doesn't take any time. Right? No additional time required. 1 plus 4%. N is 5 to the power 5. So that's the only change. Without any calculations, you will realize that when the time period increases, present value should drop. Meaning your present value should be less than 2000. $1849.11. How much would 1 million live in 100 years be worth today if the discount rate was 5%? Discount rate 5%. Future value $1 million. N is 100. What is your present value? Right, so same equation, present value is future value. So 1 plus r to the power n. And this thing, very easy to remember. And you should remember it like nursery rhyme. Right, and if possible, just see whether you can recite this in your dreams also. Right? So you sleep at night, all of a sudden you say present value is the future value divided by 1 plus r power n. Right? Then your wife will jump out of bed. But that's the idea. Right? The idea is to pass the exam. If she panics, tell her not to panic. That this will, you get back to normal after your exam. They are with you until October. End of October, then all over. Future value 1 million divided by 1 plus this 5% to the power 100. Now, one more thing you could do is at the exam, all the figures are in millions. You don't have to write this. No point writing lots of zeros. You can just say 1 million or 1 plus 5% to the power 100. Right? Saves time. A few seconds here and there can be also again the difference between pass and a fail. $7604.49. Any questions up to now? You all can see the board or can't see the board? Okay. Okay. Rachini, you okay? Can you see the board?
Okay, sir. Can see, sir.
Well, noise is not working on this. Let me see. Muted perhaps. So maybe there is no speaker. You can see, right? Okay, thanks. Yeah, any questions? Let us move on. Next one is on annuities, right? So what's an annuity? Annuity, right? It's very simple. Over a period of years, right? Over a period, let's say maybe 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, or whatever. Over a period of years, if you keep receiving the same amount every year, that's every year you receive the same amount. Each year you get the same amount. Until its maturity. Then it's called an annuity, right? Every year, annually, it's called annuity. And if you're getting an annuity, you have a series of cash flows, the same cash flow coming every year for a period of time. And what you need to do is, well, if you need to calculate the present value of this, right? How to calculate the present value? Because all of these cash flows are cash flows that you receive in the future, not today, right? So what you can do is you can calculate the present value of an annuity using the equation that is given here. Right. This equation. And if you need to calculate the future value, you can still calculate using what is given in this page, in this slide. So you can calculate both the future value of this annuity as well as the present value of this annuity. Yeah. Now this equation I have been trying to memorize for the last 15-20 years, but so far I have never been able to memorize. I always keep forgetting. And so it's not compulsory that you memorize. Little too complicated, and don't waste time memorizing this equation. But the others basics you need to memorize. Okay. Right. Let's move on to the questions. Because the future value equation for the future value of an annuity will be given. You need to substitute the equation. Okay, so let's try this example. Every year you're getting cash flows of 100 for the next 3 years. Right? Every year, cash flow of 100. Time period is 3, interest rate is 5%. And how do you calculate the future value? Payment is 100, N is 3. Interest rate is 5%. So the future value is your payment into 1 plus I to the power n over I minus 1 over I. By the way, both these equations will give you the same answer, right? Because I is common. And 100 plus I is 5% power D divided by 5% minus 1 over 10%. Sorry, Chamari, my handwriting has never been good. Right? You have to bear with it. 315.25. Yes. What it means is receiving $315, 3 years down the line, like at an interest rate of 5%, is equal to receiving $100 every year for the next 3 years at a rate of 5% per annum. Okay, so that's the interpretation. You need to know the interpretation as well. You need to know what these mean. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. Okay. Then the present value of an annuity. Is payment into 1 over I minus 1 over I into 1 plus I to the power n. And this you keep receiving payments of 100 every year. Right, over a period of 3 years, you have to calculate the present value. $272.32. Yeah. Any questions up to now? No questions? Right. So let's try this. Let's try these examples. Assume that you plan to buy a condo 5 years from now. And you estimate that you can save $2,500 every year. You plan to deposit the money in a bank that pays 4% interest, and you will make the first payment at the end of the year. How much will you have after 5 years? Right, so after 5 years, how much will you have means they're asking the future value. Annual payment is 2,500. Question number 1. Payment is 2,500. N is 5. Interest rate is 4%. The future value is 2,500 plus 4%. 5. 4%. Minus 1 over 4%. $13,540.81. Next one is for an ordinary annuity with 5 annual payments of $100 and 10% interest rate. How many years will the first payment earn interest? And what will this year's payments value be at the end? Right. It's an annuity. 5 annual payments. 0, 1, 3, 4. 5 annual payments of 100. %10 interest. N is 5. how many years will first payment earn interest, right? So the first payment comes at the end of the first year. It will earn interest for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, right? The interest will get compounded 4 times. And what will this payment value be at the end? Okay. So this $100 will become how much at the end? Simple future value calculation. Future value is present value into 1 plus r to the power n. Present value is 100. Okay. The question is, what will this payment's value be at the end? Right? So how much will it come to at the end of the 5th year? Okay. Into 1 plus r is 10%. So it gets compounded 4 times into the power 4. One 46, 41. Third one. Assume that you are offered an annuity that pays $100 at the end of each year for 10 years. Right. So it's an annuity that offers to pay $100 at the end of each year for 10 years. You could earn 8% on your money in the investment in other investments with equal risk. What is the most you should pay for the annuity? Okay. If you are offered an annuity that pays $100 at the end of each year for 10 years, so every year you will receive $100 every year for 10 years. And the interest rate is 8%. Right. So how much should you deposit today in order to receive payments of $100 every year? Right. So what is the present value? That's the question. What would be the present value? You need to use this equation. That will be equal to payment of 100 into 1 over 8% minus 1 over 8% into 1 plus 8% into the power 10. 671.01. Okay. Yeah. How do you calculate using the calculator? You can do it one shot. Fortunately, I have the scientific calculator on my phone, right? But at the exam, you're not allowed to take it to the exam. What I can do is I'll just type it on this. Just make sure. The other thing is you need to buy a scientific calculator. I'm not sure how much it will cost. Not a lot, right? It will. You don't have to break a bank to buy a scientific calculator. And don't buy it the day before the exam. Better buy it now itself, and even at office, just start practicing it, right? Because if you want to experiment with the new calculator at the exam, that is the worst possible time. My advice is for you to buy a scientific calculator straight away, and if you can, just go to bed also with the calculator. Right? You have to be familiar with it. So let me type this on the calculator. Two things: you can either do it individual components separately, or you can do it one shot. If you want to save time, I would advise to do it in one go. That's why you need to practice. Every question we do in class, you need to practice on the calculator. No, I'll just maybe show it to you step by step. I'm not sure whether you can see the phone. Right. So the key is you have to type it on your calculator. I'm not using the word phone. the same way as you write it there. Okay, so you write 100, then you put the bracket, right? In between you have put into 1 divided by 8%. Which is 0.08 minus 1 divided by 0.08 divided by 1.08 to the power 10. That's how you get it. On a scientific calculator, you need to type the same thing, identical thing. Yeah. So make sure you buy a scientific calculator and practice. Very difficult to do it on a calculator like this. What happened to me was I lent out my calculator to a friend, and I never got it back. Right now, the problem is I don't remember who borrowed it from me. Okay. Okay, is that clear? You all got it? How to calculate using the calculator? Marisha, you okay? So there's something wrong probably with the way you typed it. Maybe you haven't put the brackets properly, right? Or maybe you put into in this place, right? Without into, if you type divide, you might get the answer. I'm not sure whether you all can see it. That's what you need to type on the calculator, right? So just have a look. You all would have made a small mistake somewhere because some of you all are getting the answer. Alicia, you want to give it another try? Rachini, how about you? You got the answer? Yeah. That's what you need to type. You type this on your calculator, you get it. Yeah. So it's surely some mistake that you would have made with the brackets, perhaps decimals, into the power, or division. Right. So I have a feeling you would have made a mistake somewhere here. Right. And you would have made a mistake because you have gone wrong with some basic knowledge. Now, this is not rocket science. If you understand what the computation here, then it's very easy to type on the calculator. Right? If you understand the basics, that's why it's very important to understand the basics. If you understand the basics, you can type it properly on the calculator. So it's a matter of the way you type on the calculator. I did the brackets first, okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Even if you do it first, it's fine. Right, okay. So let's move on, Rachini. I hope you'll be okay. Yeah. Any questions on this before we move on? No questions? If only the answer is incorrect, where the marks are not given, for as long as you write the formula properly and you substitute the figures, you will get part of it. You may not get full marks, which is fair enough, right? But if this answer, you need this answer to answer the rest of the questions, right? Even if you get this answer wrong, you will still get marks for the rest if the theory and your knowledge is correct. Right? You might not get complete marks, but 80 to 90% of the marks you'll still get. Okay. Yeah, so that's annuity. The next concept is called perpetuity. Now, annuity is a cash flow which you receive up to a given period of time. Right? Maybe 5 years or 10 years, 15 years or whatever. Right? But if you receive cash flows indefinitely, right? Indefinitely you are supposed to receive cash flow, something like a royalty, right? Or a patent. Whenever there is a usage, you receive something. That's called a perpetuity. There is no end. And so you get the cash flows coming in indefinitely. There is no end. Right? It has an indefinite maturity. Perpetuities are securities that promise to make payments forever. The present value of a perpetuity can be found with a simple formula, yeah, which can be derived using the present value of an annuity. Okay. So let me write that. The present value of an annuity is the payment into 1 over I minus 1 over I into 1 plus I into power n. Right. So it's similar to an annuity. The only difference is the time period is infinite, which means n goes to 0. Right? When n goes to 0, this entire term becomes, n goes to infinity now. When n is infinity, this entire term becomes infinite. Right? This is the payment into 1 over I minus 1 over I into 1 plus I. this term becomes infinite, infinite. One over infinity is, what is 1 over infinity? Something we learned in grade 2. One over infinity is, yeah, what we learned in grade 2. One over infinity is 0. Very good. Yes, good. You're right. Right. So this is payment into 1 over I minus 0. It's payment into 1 over I. In other words, it's payment divided by I. And so the present value of the perpetuity is nothing but the annual payment divided by interest rate. This you need to remember, not very difficult, very easy. Right? So it's payment divided by the interest rate. The other thing is you can only find the present value of a perpetuity. You can't find the future value because there is no future. It continues indefinitely. You can only calculate the present value. Right? It's the annual payment divided by the interest rate, and the discount factor. Discount factor for a perpetuity is 1 over the interest rate. So let's try this example. Consider British console that pays $25 annually. If interest rates are currently 5.2%, what is the value of this console? 2% value is the payment divided by the interest rate. Payment is $25. Interest rate 5.2%. $480.77. $480.77. So what does it mean? How can you interpret? How would you interpret this? How do you interpret this? The interpretation is receiving $480.77 today or receiving $25 every year indefinitely and discount rate of 5.2% are the same, right? So at a discount rate of 5.2%, receiving either $480.77 today or receiving $25 every year for an infinite time period are the same. So that's how you interpret it. Is that clear? Discount factor. Yeah. If you take the normal present value formula, future value over 1 plus r to the power n, right? And this formula, this is equal to future value into 1 over 1 plus r to the power n, right? Right. So this factor 1 over 1 plus r to the power n is called the discount factor. Discount factor. R is the discount rate. Then on the other hand, future value is present value into 1 plus r to the power n. Right. 1 plus r to the power n is called the compound factor. The r is the compound rate. Okay. So the present value of perpetuity discount factor is 1 over r. Clear, Prasanth? As well.
Yes, sir.
Is this clear? Okay, any more questions?
Sir, you said something about the perpetuity explanation. Can you explain it again?
No questions? Right, so let's try these questions. Oh, yeah. Good interpretation of annuities. So let's go back to that. Yeah, this one, right? I think I explained this, right? Anyway, receiving $315.25 in 3 years at a compound rate of 5%. Well, at a compound rate of 5%, receiving $315.25 in 3 years is the same as receiving $100 every year for the next 3 years, right? So receiving $315.25 at the end of 3 years is the same as receiving $100 every year over the next 3 years at a compound rate of 5%. Clear? Annuities present value. Receiving $272.32 today is the same as receiving $100 over the next 3 years at a discount rate of 5%. Right? I repeat, receiving $272.32 today is the same as receiving $100 each year for the next 3 years at a discount rate of 5%. Understood? Chamari, is that clear? Okay, so any more questions? Right, so let's try the last set of questions. The US Treasury offers to sell you a bond for 585 cents 43. No payments will be made until the bond matures 10 years from now, right? At which time you will be redeemed $1,000. What interest rate would you earn if you bought this bond for 585.43? N is 10. You're buying it today, which is the present value 585.43. Future value 1,000. Question is, what is the interest rate? So It's a simple percent value or future value calculation. Let's use percent value. Percent value is future value over 1 plus r to the power n. At percent value 585. So we need to calculate r. Right. So 1 plus r to the power n is the future value over present value. 1 plus r is the future value over present value. The root n. And r, future value over present value, root n minus 1. And root minus 1. So r is 5.5%. Okay, the answer. Okay. Question number 2. Microsoft earned $0.12 per share in 1994. 10 years later, in 2004, it turned 104. What was the growth rate in Microsoft's earnings per share over the 10-year period? Right. Present value. 0.12. 10 years later, let's see. I'll be a little consistent, but it's okay. The future value 1.04. What was the growth rate? Meaning, what was R? Right. Again, the same thing. Present value is future value over 1 plus R to the power n. 1 plus R to the power n is the future value over present value. 1 plus R is future value over present value. N. Therefore, R, present value over future value over present value to n minus 1. Future value 1.04, present value 0.12. N is 10 minus 1. 24.1%. Do you get the answer? So the calculation for this is question number 2. And question number 1 is identical. Can you see? Okay. That's for question number 1. This is question number 2. Shamana, looks like you don't like these calculations. Do this question come compulsorily at the exam? You can't work them out. Quite possible. And not a very complicated calculation, very simple, right? So what really matters is whether you know to apply. You need to know to apply these equations. Substitute. Even if you make a mistake with the question, the answer, it's fine. You will lose maximum 1 mark for as long as you get the rest of the steps correct. And but then why is it difficult to get this answer? Very easy. And that's why you need to keep practicing. If you practice now itself, you all can get it right. There's plenty of time. So this is as complicated as it gets. Why 0.1? Well, grade 2. Right. 1.04, 1.12. The 10th root is equal to 1.04, 4.12 to the power 1/10. 1/10 or 1.04 or 0.12 to the power 0.1. Same thing, no? What we learned in grade 2. Can't see the code. Can't see. Can you all see the code? Chanali. Can you see the board now? Okay. Right. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 3. Microsoft's 2004 earnings per share was 1.04, and its growth rate during the prior 10 years was 24.1. Right? It's identical to the previous question. If the growth rate were maintained, how long would it take for Microsoft EPS to double? In 2004 EPS was 1.04. Question is, what is the growth rate? 24.1%. And the future value 2.08. Double EPS double means currently 1.04 to double it has to get to 2.08. Growth rate 24.1%. How long will it take, right? Okay, so let's use the present value formula. Future value over 1 plus r over n. 1 plus r to the power n is future value over present value. Right, what we need to find is n. Right. How do you find n? You need to get the logarithm, right? What we did in grade 2, you may have forgotten. Logarithms n. Logarithm of 1 plus r plus the logarithm of future value or present value. Pin. N is the logarithm of future value over present value divided by the logarithm of 1 plus r. This is logarithm of future value is 2.08 divided by 0.04 with the 1 plus 94.1%. So 2.08 divided by 1.04 is 2. This will be logarithm of 2 divided by the logarithm of 1.241. So n will be logarithms. No chance you can calculate with this. 3.21 years. 3.2 years. Simple, no? Can you see now the board? Is the board clear now? Okay. Question number 4. What is the present value of a perpetuity that pays $1,000 per year, beginning 1 year from now, if the interest rate is 5%? Right. Present value, interest rate is 5%. Payment, $1,000. Right. So the present value of a perpetuity is very simple. It is the payment divided by the interest rate. Remember? Payment, this case is 1,000 divided by interest rate of 5%. $20,000. Can't see the board. Can see the board or can't see? Can see. Can you all see now? How about now? Yeah. Right. So at the exam, it's quite possible that you can get tested with these sort of questions, 3 of these, except unfortunately logarithms. Right? Very unlikely that you get tested with logarithms. Because after grade 2, lots of people have forgotten logarithms. Right. Coming back to these questions, you might get tested on each of these except logarithms, right? So these type of questions, if I was the examiner, this would be an MCQ, right? Very simple. You have to make sure that everybody gets marks, at least 2 marks for the exam. I'll put that as an MCQ. So my advice is don't target any question, be prepared for anything. Logarithms, if you have time, just go and put grade 2 your notes and revise. Very difficult to predict whether this will come in MCQ or in one of the main questions. I'd be prepared for anything. If you get these questions, very, very easy. Now you can have a Okay, so any more questions? No further questions, right? So we can wind up for today. Yeah, I will see you next week, and let's see, we might extend the class by about half an hour. Okay. We started off with an introduction to corporate financing and treasury. Then we moved on to equity, a type of funds, fundraising instruments, and then time value of money. Yeah, any further questions? Okay, so no questions. Let's wrap up for today. Thank you very much, and I will see you next week. Stay safe.